Welcome to part 2 of session 4, where we're learning to apply mindfulness to being with what's difficult in our lives. And we're going to continue to explore the theme of unpleasantness and our resistance to it, how and why we may wish to do something about that. So there always will be stress, pain, unpleasantness in our lives. So it's normal to wonder why on earth someone would want to actually be with what's painful or what's unpleasant, when very much our default behavior as humans is to avoid them. We tend to shy away from pain. We tend to avoid what we find unpleasant. We try and ignore it or neutralize it in some way. But what I hope the previous exercise has helped you discover, and what you may have noticed from your own experience in life, is that simply pushing away unpleasant experiences won't make them disappear, and it certainly won't stop new ones from coming into our lives in the future. So how can we work with resistance? How can we soften our resistance to the unpleasant and work towards letting go of our innate urge to just say no to what we don't like? So to help answer those questions, let's use a metaphor of the unwanted guest. So imagine for a moment you're sitting at home, you're relaxing in a chair, you're having a cup of tea or coffee or whatever, and the doorbell rings. And you open the door and you find there's a stranger there. But this stranger is really quite pleasant. She's in a good mood, she smiles, she has a very positive attitude, and you chat very nicely. And she leaves. The next day she returns. This time you invite her in for coffee. You spend the afternoon together perhaps, having fun, chatting, discussing things, etc. And over time, as this is repeated, you build a positive relationship and you begin to welcome her visits. So let's contrast this with one day a different type of person rings that doorbell. This isn't a pleasant person at all. This person has a bad mood. They look rather sad. They have a generally negative attitude and demeanor. And you refuse to let them in, you just shut the door on them. Yet he continues to visit regularly, despite your refusal. Over time, the negative person's visits become hostile and even dangerous. You begin to fear his visits and the possibility of him showing up. You consider barricading your home, but this would prevent the positive person from entering as well. You have never let the negative person in to hear what they have to say. You resist any kind of interaction with them. Now, not allowing the negative in, suppressing it, rejecting it, resisting or saying no, prevents us from being fully present. It denies us important information that negative emotions carry. We don't learn to regulate our emotions, and this leads to additional and unnecessary suffering over and above the unpleasantness itself. So let's move on and explore this idea of unpleasantness further and our resistance to it. So the question you may be asking is, how can we lessen our resistance to the unpleasant? If we recognize that actually it would be useful, helpful in our lives, positive in our lives, if we could do so. Well, the first thing is to recognize resistance as being separate from the experience itself. Take a moment to tune into your body and feel what resistance is like for you. Identify where in your body it appears. Maybe it's in your shoulders. Maybe you simply get angry. Perhaps you're afraid. Maybe your chest aches or your stomach gets butterflies or something. So that's the first step, to recognize resistance as separate from the experience itself. Secondly, we can build up tolerance to the unpleasant to lessen our urge to resist it. Just as we did in our exercise a few moments ago, we learned how to sit with frustration. And you can do this in your actual daily lives. So for example, if you're sitting in a traffic jam or you're waiting at the till in the supermarket, just get used to that frustration. Just sit with it. Just experience it. And practice inviting the unpleasant sensations and allowing them to pass in their own time. And the third step is to remember that unpleasant sensations will pass without our resisting them. So we've got to train ourselves to be less activated by little and big things in our lives. And toward that end, we're going to be doing a practice shortly, which will allow us to experience, to see how in our own lives unpleasant sensations, neutral experiences, and pleasant experiences can manifest themselves, so we can observe the differences between them and we can experience our reactions to them. So let's move on. Let's move on to that practice. So this practice is, as its name suggests, we're going to be experiencing unpleasant, we're going to be experiencing neutral, and we're going to be experiencing pleasant sensations. When it comes to the unpleasant, avoid anything that you find is too traumatizing or unpleasant for you. But we're just going to experience what it's like to move between them, to experience what we are during those times. So as we've mentioned numerous times with all our practices, make sure you can give it your full attention. And when you're ready to start, sit in an upright position in your chair. Get your hips 2 to 3 inches above the level of your knees. Have your feet flat on the floor. And rest your hands in your lap without interlocking your fingers. You may close your eyes if you wish to, otherwise just have a soft downward gaze toward the floor. And without changing it, become aware of your breath as it rolls in and rolls out again. Okay, let's begin this practice by bringing to your attention an unpleasant sensation, an unpleasant experience, past, present or future, whichever it might be. As mentioned earlier, nothing too traumatic or overwhelming, but just something you really don't like. Yeah? And that discomfort may be causing you tension, it may be slightly painful or whatever. And just for a moment, check your neck, your shoulders, your back, your lower back. Check your jaw and head for sensations. And label any sensations you do find as unpleasant. And ask yourself, which part of this experience is actually unpleasant? And then label it. Maybe it's a tightness, maybe it's a pressure, maybe you feel heat. And breathe into the sensation and observe what happens when you do so. Now, identify any resistance you have to this unpleasantness and separate it from the sensation itself. And when you've identified the resistance, take a deep breath and just let go of that unpleasant sensation. Just let it pass. And take 1 or 2 deep breaths. Now what I'd like you to do is bring your attention to a neutral sensation in the body. Just scan your body right now and find a neutral place. And what's the feeling there? And ask yourself what part of this is neutral. And what exactly does neutral feel like for you? And when you find that sensation, just label it as, well, neutral. Breathe into that sensation and hold your attention there for a moment. Just notice if anything changes. Maybe nothing changes at all. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. And take a deep breath and let go of that neutral sensation. Pause and take a deep breath for a moment. And now we're going to scan your body for a pleasant sensation. Maybe it's somewhere you feel calm, maybe relaxed, maybe loose, whatever it is for you. And ask yourself what part of this sensation is pleasant. And get to know what pleasantness feels. What does it feel like for you? And label this sensation as pleasant. Take a moment to breathe into that sensation and hold your attention there. And just notice if anything changes when you do that. Now just let go of that pleasant feeling. Come back to your breathing without trying to change it at all. Just be aware of your breathing as it rolls in, as it rolls out again. And that brings to an end this practice of going through unpleasant, neutral, unpleasant experiences. Just become aware of your feet on the floor, the seat that you're sitting in. You may want to wiggle your fingers. Take 2 or 3 deep breaths. And if your eyes were closed, open them when you're ready. And become aware of the environment that you're in. And when you're ready, we're going to move on to reflect on just what you experienced during the session. So, let's reflect on this guided meditation we've just done. You may want to do this through journaling. You may wish to simply do it mentally, whichever works for you. And just ask yourself, what are the similarities and differences among unpleasant, neutral, and pleasant feelings and sensations? And has anything changed from before the practice? So if you want to, you can pause the video here and spend time just doing some journaling on these, on what you noticed, what you experienced, and so on. And when you're ready, we can move on to the next guided practice. So this is our final guided practice of this session, where we're going to be looking at bringing compassion to difficult emotions. And we're going to try and build our tolerance for the unpleasant through various visualizations. So assuming you can give your full attention to this practice, sit upright in your chair with your hips 2 to 3 inches above the level of your knees. Your feet are flat on the floor. Allow your hands to rest gently in your lap without interlacing your fingers. Close your eyes if you wish to. If not, then just gaze gently down toward the floor. And without changing it, become aware of your breath as it rolls in and rolls out again. So let's begin with a visualization where I'd like you to get in your mind's eye a gently flowing stream, which has a very gentle and meandering current to it. Just to sit on the bank and observe the water coming into view, passing you by, then flowing out again. And notice that on the water there's a big leaf floating by, being carried along by the stream. Maybe there are other objects there too, just like thoughts just passing by. And notice that our thoughts about the past, our thoughts on loved ones, maybe our memories, how they come into our attention, stay for a while, and then move on again. Notice that how everything is temporary, how everything is flowing in and flowing out of our attention. And visualize an orb of light, softly glowing, vibrant sphere, and in your field of attention more and more orbs begin to appear, each of them with a different bright color. And as you observe them, pick an orb of a chosen color and hold it in your palm. Study its colors, various hues and shadows, how the light is falling on it. And ask yourself, what feeling is this color? What emotion did I choose? And feel and label that emotion. And notice the orb's temperature, if it has one. Does it have a weight? Does its surface have a texture? Observe all these things without changing any of its characteristics. And now slowly scan the body from the head through to the feet, and notice any sensations from holding the orb. Accept the feeling's presence and your mind's reaction to them. Just let the orb go. Just let it fade away, float away, and bring your attention back to the stream we mentioned earlier. The stream flowing and carrying things in and out of your view. And just like the orb came into your experience, stayed for a while, then passed away again. So it is with the stream of life, carrying things into our lives, into our attention, where they remain for a while before moving on again. I'm now going to go through a number of phrases, a number of what we call acceptance mantras. You can repeat them silently if you wish, and you may find there's one or more which you feel particularly attracted to. So let's begin. May I live peacefully alongside all emotions. May I accept what is happening in my life, moment by moment. May acceptance give me courage to face, not avoid, situations and people. May I live my life fully and freely, even with unpleasant feelings. May my loved ones enjoy this acceptance and freedoms too. May all the world's people accept their feelings fully. So, this brings to an end this guided practice. Becoming aware again of your breathing as it rolls in, pauses for a moment before rolling out again, pausing for a moment before rolling in again. And become aware of your feet on the floor. Become aware of the chair that you are sitting in. You may wish to wiggle your fingers and take 2 or 3 deep breaths. If your eyes were closed, then open them when you're ready and become aware of the environment you're in. You may wish to pause the video for a moment and journal what you experienced during this session, during this guided practice, as we move into the closing notes for this particular session. So a reminder that there's a student workbook with practices in it which you can go through in the coming week. In our next session, our 5th session, we're going to be looking more closely at loving kindness and compassion in relation to mindfulness. And of course, if you have any questions at all on the course, then please use the website contact form and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So, let's close our session with a wish that all sentient beings, including ourselves, are well. Thank you for joining me during this session. I look forward to joining you in our next session, where we'll be looking at more closely at loving kindness and compassion.